You're standing in that pro shop aisle, a wall of golf balls in front of you, every single box promising more distance, more spin, more control, and your hand is drifting toward the $50 dozen. Because the pros play it. Stop. Just for a second, stop. Here's what I found after months of digging through old equipment records. The best golf ball for a mid-handicapper is almost never the most expensive one on that shelf. And the one number that used to tell you which ball actually fit your swing was quietly erased from the box. I chased that missing number through old catalogs and dusty golf archives, and what I found changed the way I buy golf balls for the rest of my life. So stay with me. Because by the end, I am going to hand you a 2-minute test you can do in your own driveway, built on the same idea a club fitter wrote about back in the 1960s, that tells you exactly which of these 5 balls belongs in your bag. And it works whether you swing 78 miles an hour or 105. I remember the exact moment this started. I was clearing out my late uncle's garage last fall, boxes of rusted irons and cracked leather grips, and I found a sleeve of old balls with a number stamped right on the side, just the number 90. Nothing else. And I stood there holding it thinking, why on earth would they print a number on a golf ball, and why don't they do that anymore? That one little question sent me down a trail I could not stop pulling. Because here is the thing that bothered me. My uncle was not a great golfer. He was a weekend player, a mid-handicapper, exactly like you and me. And somehow he knew something about picking a golf ball that I did not. That stamped number meant something. It was a piece of common knowledge that every golfer used to understand, and somewhere along the way it got buried. So I started digging to find out what it was. The number was compression, and once I understood what it really meant, I could not believe nobody talks about it anymore. Compression is simply how much a golf ball squishes when your club strikes it. A softer, lower compression ball squishes more. A firmer, higher compression ball resists. And here is the part that matters to you and me, the everyday player. If your swing speed does not match the compression of your ball, you are literally leaving distance and control on the table on every single shot. Not sometimes, every shot. Back when my uncle was buying balls, this was printed right on the box. 80, 90, 100. A slower swinger grabbed the 80. A hard hitter grabbed the 100. It was common sense, the way you would pick a shoe size. Nobody needed a launch monitor. Nobody needed a fitting appointment. The number told you everything. So my first question was simple. When did they stop printing it and why? Because that answer, it turns out, is the whole reason mid-handicappers overpay for the wrong ball today. To understand it, I had to go all the way back, further than I expected. The modern golf ball really begins in 1898. A man named Coburn Haskell, working with a factory engineer named Bertram Work at the B.F. Goodrich plant in Akron, Ohio, wound rubber thread around a solid core and wrapped it up. The Haskell ball, it was patented in 1899, and by 1901 it had won major championships and completely erased the old solid gutta-percha ball that golfers had beaten around for 50 years. That wound construction, a core with a wound layer and a cover, ruled golf for the entire 20th century. And here's the detail I found in old golf equipment guides from the 1930s and 40s. Those wound balls came in different tensions. The tighter the winding, the higher the compression, and manufacturers started stamping that number right on the ball so a golfer could match it to how hard he swung. By the 1960s, it was standard. Compression 80 for the ladies and seniors and smooth swingers, compression 90 for the average man, compression 100 for the strong player who could really crush it. I found a Golf Digest instruction column from that era, and a club fitter quoted in it said something that stuck with me. He said a golfer swinging under 90 miles an hour who insisted on playing a 100 compression ball was, in his words, hitting a rock, and he was throwing away yards he would never get back. That was 60-some years ago. That knowledge was ordinary. It was neighbor-to-neighbor wisdom. So the tension for me became obvious. If everyone knew this in 1965, why does nobody talk about it in 2025? Why did that helpful little number vanish? Hold that question, because it gets darker, and I will come back to it. First, let me show you the 5 balls I ended up trusting and exactly who each one is for. Because the whole point of understanding compression is knowing which ball to actually put in your bag. Let me start at number 5. And this one surprised me because for years I assumed it was too much ball for a mid-handicapper. Number 5 is the Callaway Chrome Soft. Now, the reason I almost dismissed it is that it wears the Tour Ball badge and the Tour Ball price, usually somewhere around $50 a dozen. But when I dug into the actual specs, I found something. The Chrome Soft sits at a compression right around 75, which is genuinely soft. That means a mid-handicapper with a moderate swing speed, say 90 to 95 miles an hour with the driver, can actually compress this ball properly. You get a soft feel off the putter, a urethane cover that grabs on your wedges around the green, and forgiveness on the long shots. Why it made my list is the greenside control. When I finally understood compression, I also understood cover material, and these two things together are the whole story of a golf ball. The Chrome Soft's urethane cover is what lets a mid-handicapper start holding greens instead of watching the ball skip over the back. If your short game is where you are losing strokes, this is the softer, more forgiving cousin of the balls the pros play, and it forgives the mid-handicapper's misses better than the firmer tour models. But here is what nagged at me even as I ranked it. $50 a dozen is real money, and most mid-handicappers lose a sleeve of balls around. So I kept asking, is there a ball that gives me almost this much for a lot less? Therefore, I kept digging, and that leads me straight to number 4. Number 4 is the Bridgestone Tour B RX. And Bridgestone is where my compression obsession really paid off, because this is the one company that never fully stopped talking about matching the ball to your swing. That alone earned my respect. Here is the clue that made me trust them. Bridgestone built their whole fitting system around one dividing line, and that line is swing speed of 105 miles an hour with the driver. If you swing slower than that, and friend, the overwhelming majority of mid-handicappers swing well under that, Bridgestone tells you flat out to play the RX, not the firmer X model. They are practically the only major brand still whispering that old 60s wisdom that the ball should match the swing. The Tour B RX runs a compression in the 60s, soft enough for a moderate swing to load it up, with a urethane cover for spin and a coating they call reactive that firms up on hard impacts for distance and stays soft on gentle ones for control. In plain terms, it rewards the everyday swing. It usually runs a little under the very top tier, often in the low 40s per dozen when you catch it right. And this is the moment the villain in my story first stepped out of the shadows. Because if Bridgestone can build a fitting system around swing speed and tell a slower swinger to buy the softer and often cheaper ball, then every other company could too. They simply chose not to. They chose to let you believe the firmest, most expensive tour ball is automatically the best ball for everyone, and I wanted to know why. Therefore, I kept pulling the thread, and it took me somewhere I did not expect. Before I get to number 3, I have to say something to the person watching this who is already thinking, this is fine for guys with smooth, fast swings, but my swing is a mess and slow, and I top half my drives, so none of this applies to me. I hear you. I thought the same thing. So let me stop right here and tell you plainly, this matters more for you than for anyone. Here is why. A player with a slow or inconsistent swing is the exact person a firm, high-compression ball punishes the hardest. When you cannot generate speed, a firm ball just refuses to compress, and you lose distance and feel and any hope of stopping it on the green. The softer, lower compression ball is the one that does the work for you. So if you swing slow, if you are a senior, if your tempo is gentle, you are not the exception to this rule. You are the person it was written for. And you can act on this today with a ball you might already own. Go find the balls rolling around in your bag or your garage right now. If they are the firm tour balls, the ones marked X or labeled for high swing speed, and your swing is smooth or slow, just switching to a softer ball this weekend, one of the ones on this list, will very likely give you more carry and a softer feel immediately. You do not need new clubs. You do not need a lesson. You need the right ball for the swing you already have. That is a free fix, and it is sitting in front of you. And if this kind of recovered practical knowledge is the thing you are hungry for, I put together a lot more of it in my books, First Wins, Sharp Habits, and the Full System. They are built around the same idea running through everything I do here, that the most useful knowledge is almost never the newest or the most expensive. It is the stuff that got quietly set aside because it did not serve someone else's bottom line. If you want to go deeper than a single video allows, check the description for the link. It is the same trail, just with more ground to cover. Now, with that foundation in place, let us get back to the list and the ball that cracked the trail wide open for me. Number 3 is the Srixon Q-Star Tour, and I want to tell you exactly why this ball cracked the trail wide open for me. It has a genuine urethane cover, the same category of cover material as the $50 tour balls, the material that gives you real spin and control around the green, but it sits at a compression around 72, soft enough for the moderate mid-handicap swing, and it typically sells for around $30 to $35 a dozen. Think about what that means. For years, the golf world trained us to believe there was a wall. On one side, the cheap two-piece distance balls with the hard Surlyn covers that skid across greens. On the other side, the expensive urethane tour balls for the good players. And you were supposed to pick a side based on your ego. The Q-Star Tour walked right through that wall. It gave the everyday player the urethane cover, the greenside bite, the soft feel, at a price that does not sting when you splash one in the pond. Now here is where the history clicked into place for me, and the villain came fully into the light. Remember my question, why did the compression number vanish from the box? Here is what I pieced together. In the early 2000s, the industry shifted from those wound balls to modern multi-layer solid core balls. And with that new construction, compression became harder to describe with one clean number, because now a ball could be soft on the outside and firm in the core, or the reverse. That is the honest half of the answer. But here is the other half. The disappearance of that number was extremely convenient, because once the number was gone, the companies were free to market every premium ball as the best ball, full stop, for everybody. No more, this one is for slow swingers, that one is for fast swingers. Just buy the ball the champion won with on Sunday. The number that used to protect the average golfer from buying the wrong ball, the number that saved my uncle money and yards, simply disappeared from the conversation. And the profit from that disappearance flowed in one direction, away from your wallet. I am not saying anyone sat in a boardroom and plotted it. I am saying the incentive was obvious, the number was inconvenient, and it quietly went away. And a whole generation of mid-handicappers grew up never knowing the single most important thing their grandfathers knew about picking a ball. That made me angry, honestly. So I decided the rest of this trail was about giving it back. Therefore, let me give you number 2. Number 2 is the tailor-made tour response. And I put this here for a specific reason that ties everything together. This is TaylorMade's answer to the exact problem we have been chasing. The everyday player who wants a urethane tour-style ball but does not swing like a professional. The tour response sits at a compression around 70, and it wears a urethane cover, and it usually lands around $40 a dozen, or a little less. It splits the difference beautifully. It is softer than the Full Tour TP5, so a moderate swing can compress it, but it still gives you the cover performance that stops the ball near the flag. For a mid-handicapper who wants one ball that does everything reasonably well, this is one of the most balanced choices you can make. And it is a step down in price from the flagship without being a step down in the thing that matters, which is the cover. And I want to point out the pattern that is now impossible to unsee. Look at these balls. Chrome Soft around 75 compression, Q-Star Tour around 72, Tour Response around 70, Bridgestone RX in the 60s. Do you notice? Every ball I am steering you toward is soft. Every single one is in a compression range that a normal human swing can actually load up and use. That is not an accident. That is the old 60s wisdom, the club fitter's warning about hitting a rock, reaching across 60 years and telling you the truth the box stopped telling you. The firm, high compression balls. The ones marked X, the ones built for a swing over 105 miles an hour, are magnificent balls in the right hands. But they are not your hands, not if you are a typical mid-handicapper. and for decades you were nudged toward them anyway. So which softball sits at the very top of my list? That leads me to number one. Number one is the Titleist Pro V1. And I know exactly what you are thinking, because I thought it too. Wait, you spent this whole time warning me off the expensive tour ball, and now the $50 Titleist is number one? Let me explain, because this is the part that surprised even me. When I actually looked up the numbers instead of the reputation, I found the Pro V1 has a compression around 87 to 90. Now stop and look at that number, 90. That is the exact number stamped on the old ball I found in my uncle's garage. Compression 90, the number the 1960s charts called the ball for the average man, the best-selling premium golf ball on the planet, the one every mid-handicapper eyes in the shop, is sitting right in the historical sweet spot for a moderate to solid amateur swing. It is not a rock. It never was. Titleist built the world's most popular ball right around the compression the old guides recommended for the everyday golfer, and then simply stopped telling anyone that is why it works. The Pro V1 earns number one because it does everything: long game distance, consistent flight, a urethane cover with elite greenside control, and it fits the swing of a mid-handicapper who has decent speed, roughly in the 90 to 100 mile per hour range with the driver. If you are in that range and you can afford it, it genuinely is the best ball for you, and now you know the actual reason instead of the marketing reason. But, and this is the whole point of everything I have told you, that if matters enormously, if you swing slower than that, the Pro V1 is not your best ball, no matter how many majors it has won. The softer balls further down my list will serve you better and cost you less. The right ball for you is the one that matches your swing. That was true in 1965, and it is true today, and the only thing that changed is that they stopped helping you figure it out. So let me help you figure it out. This is the part I promised at the very beginning. This is the buried method, the thing that snaps the whole mystery shut. Here is how you find your own compression match without a launch monitor, without a fitting fee, without walking into a shop and trusting a salesman whose job is to sell you the $50 box. And it is built on the same principle that old club fitter described in that Golf Digest column decades ago, the idea that swing speed is the master key. First, you need a rough sense of your driver swing speed, and you can get it for free. The simplest, honest method is your driver carry distance. Take how far your good drives actually carry in the air, not the roll, just the carry, and divide by 2.5. If your solid drives carry about 220 yards, that is roughly 88 miles an hour. If they carry about 200 yards, you are around 80. If they carry 250 in the air, you are up near 100. Be honest with yourself. Use your normal drive, not the one perfect one you hit last summer. Now match it. If your swing speed is under about 85 miles an hour, you want the softest balls on this list, the Bridgestone RX, and the Tour Response, in the 60s to around 70 compression, because your swing needs a ball that will squish and give you distance. If you are between about 85 and 95, you are in the beautiful middle, and the Q-Star Tour and Chrome Soft fit you like a glove. And if you are consistently above 95, now you have earned the Pro V1 at compression 90, and it will reward you. And here is the second half of the finale, the money-saving trick that made me laugh out loud when I realized it. Golf ball models get replaced on a schedule, usually every 2 years, and the moment a new version drops, the previous version, a ball that was a $50 premium tour ball 6 months ago, gets marked down, often to $30 a dozen or less, sometimes half off. The performance difference between last year's tour ball and this year's is so small that no mid-handicapper on earth could feel it. So you buy the previous generation. You get the urethane cover, you get the right compression, and you pay a fraction of the price. My uncle would have called that plain common sense. The industry calls it old stock and hopes you never notice. Do that one thing and you will play a better ball for your swing, and you will spend less doing it for the rest of your golfing life. That is the number they took off the box, handed back to you. Let me tell you what I really recovered on this trail, because it was not just a golf tip. I recovered a piece of my uncle's common sense. That stamped 90 on an old ball in a dusty garage was a whole generation's worth of knowledge. The simple idea that the tool should fit the person, not the other way around. And it got buried under a wall of shiny boxes designed to make you feel like the most expensive one must be the best one for you. If you are the kind of person who suspects that a lot of useful, ordinary knowledge got quietly buried so you would keep paying for things your grandparents understood for free, then you already know why this matters. It was never really about golf balls. It is about who gets to decide what you know before you spend your money. So here is what I want from you. Go find your driver carry distance, do the little division I showed you, and tell me the number you land on in the comments. What is your swing speed, and which of these 5 balls did it point you to? I read them, and I want to see how many of you have been playing the wrong ball for years. Do not just nod along and scroll away. Type it out. It takes 10 seconds, and it helps the next person who finds this. And if you want to keep digging with me, subscribe, because this is what we do here. We recover the buried common sense the convenience economy trained us to forget. Next time I am pulling the thread on the golf glove, and specifically the reason your grandfather's leather glove outlasted 3 of the ones you buy today, and the 15-cent step everyone skipped that used to make them last for years. That number 90 was just the beginning. I will see you on the next trail. Stay with me, you made it to the end. This video gave you the overview, but the deeper version waits inside my membership, the Old Ways Circle, picking up right where we just left off. In there, you can ask me your own question. A real person, me, answering you myself. You won't be doing this alone. Old Ways folks like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime, one click.